After the college entrance exams, my straight-A boyfriend introduced me to the forbidden fruit in the heat of passion. He held me close and said with deep affection, "Jiayue, they're offering 300,000 to enroll in a junior college. Should we give it a shot? Besides, we've been model students for so many years, why not rebel for once?" I was lost in Gu Qishan's eyes. In my past life, I had refused. But just before submitting my college applications, my mother got into a car accident and needed money for a craniotomy. Remembering the 300,000 yuan Gu Qishan had mentioned, I didn't hesitate and applied for a vocational college. Yet, at the last moment, my mother secretly changed my application back to Tsinghua University for me. The day the admission results were announced, my mother passed away despite all efforts to save her. Lin Yao stood before me, holding Tsinghua University's admission letter. "He Jiayue, if you had just agreed to go to a vocational college earlier, we wouldn't have had to hire someone to cripple your mother. It's all your fault for being so defiant, but I have access to the application system, so you can't win." "Did you really think Qishan liked you? He was just using you to get into Tsinghua University with me." Consumed by rage, I pulled her with me as I leaped from the top of the building. Given a second chance at life, I will make sure they pay a devastating price. What's on your mind, Jiayue?" Gu Qishan waved his hand in front of my eyes. "Just thinking about what you said." I turned my head to look at him. He nibbled on my earlobe, his voice laced with a gentle coaxing tone. "Jiayue, I want to experience a different kind of life. We're such good students. We can make a name for ourselves anywhere. Besides, you'll be given 300,000. 300,000 is nothing to a rich kid like Gu Qishan, but for me, it was an irresistible temptation. In my past life, the moment he said those words, I shoved him away violently and threw the water from the table in his face. "Gu Qishan, you have someone to back you up." "But I don't." I threw down those words and ran out of the hotel, so I completely missed the flash of disgust in his eyes as I turned away. But now, I just smile without a word. Suppressing the nausea in my heart, I forced out a sickly sweet voice. "Sure, it's exhausting being the good student anyway." Gu Qishan's movements froze abruptly. His thumb pressed into my waist, the pressure intensifying. He was making sure, confirming that the girl smiling and snuggling into his arms. Could this really be he, Jiayue, the one who always kept a straight face and would blush at even holding hands? Really, a light I had never seen before flickered in his eyes, a mix of pleasant surprise and a trace of imperceptible calculation. "You're the best, Moonlight. I knew you'd understand me." "Understand you?" I sneered inwardly. "So, when can I get the money?" "I want to buy the latest model of phone." I tilted my face up, letting my eyelashes brush against his chin on purpose. Soon he kissed me eagerly, his tongue prying my lips apart with an aggressive hunger. I closed my eyes, suppressing the surge of hatred in my heart. Gu Qishan was handsome, with a great figure, excellent grades, and came from a wealthy family. In this life, he loved me, albeit with conflict. But no matter what, he was an accomplice to the deaths of my mother and me. Gu Qishan was never an innocent man. I dragged my exhausted body home and collapsed into bed. I didn't wake up until the next day, when my mom returned from her shift. As soon as she came in, she frantically pushed open my door and started shouting, "He Jiayue, your classmates are all saying you applied to a vocational college for 300,000 yuan. Are you serious?" I nodded with a smile. "Yeah, it's 300,000 yuan, and there's more if I get accepted." Mother's face turned ashen with rage, and she slapped me across the face. "He Jiayue, our family is not so poor that you need to drop out of school to earn this 300,000 yuan. How can you betray all those years of grueling study?" I swallowed the metallic taste in my mouth, looked up, and forced a stiff smile. "What's there to be sorry about? I'm a good student. I'll do fine anywhere." "Don't worry, Mom. Besides, it's close to home. I can come visit you often." Mom was trembling with rage. She snatched up a broom from the floor and swung it at me. I couldn't dodge in time and got hit several times. "It doesn't hurt," but I was already in tears. Seeing me cry, Mom turned her head away, her voice choked with emotion. "He Jiayue, you've let me down after all these years of hardship and sacrifice to put you through school." I dug my nails hard into my palm, forcing a light-hearted tone. "Yeah, that's why I'm earning money to pay you back." Just as we were talking, Gu Qishan's phone rang. I hung up and waved at my mom. "Alright, it's just filling out college applications. No big deal. I'm heading out first." Mom threw whatever was at hand toward me. "He Jiayue, if you insist on applying to a junior college, then don't call me your mother anymore, and don't you ever come back to this house again too." I paused mid-step, but continued walking out. Tears blurred my vision, and my mother's voice faded into the distance. Vivid memories from my past life replayed in my mind. She lay in the hospital bed, her breathing as faint as a wisp of thread, yet they still went ahead and changed my college application choices back while I was asleep at night that afternoon. Lin Yao wore a white dress, looking as pure as a gardenia blossom. She slapped the Tsinghua University acceptance letter right in my face, her fingertip traced over the characters of her name, Lin Yao, with a smile that was both innocent and cruel. He Jiayue, if you had just listened to Qi Shen and gone to the vocational college, how could your mother have gotten so worked up that it made her sick? Oh, right. The system for changing your application requires the original applicant's verbal consent. You just wouldn't agree, so we had no choice but to ask the driver to have a little chat with your mom. I coughed up blood, its metallic sweetness on my tongue, as her words held in my ears along with the wind, but I couldn't hear a single word of it anymore. Only one thought consumed me, to take her with me in death. So, I dragged her and leapt from the high-rise. Wind rushed into my ears, mingling her screams with the gasps of the crowd below. As my consciousness faded, I swore if there is a next life, I will make every last one of them pay. The bright moon. Gu Qishan ran towards me, his hair damp with sweat at the temples, under the radiant sun. Qishan, let's go on a trip, just the two of us. I suddenly spoke up, letting him hold my hand. His eyes lit up. Sure, where would you like to go? Let's go to that seaside city you told me about before. Alright, I'll go with you wherever you want. Without a second thought, he pulled me in by the neck and kissed me. I could feel his phone vibrating in his pocket. It was obvious the message was from Lin Yao. She and Gu Qishan grew up together, and their entire social circle was wealthy. Lin Yao resented me for being poor yet academically outstanding. She hated that I never felt inferior and would even fight back. So Gu Qishan came to drag me down from my pedestal, but she forbade Gu Qishan from any intimate contact with me, holding hands, hugging, kissing. If she ever found out, I would face another brutal round of bullying, but I was determined to have Gu Qishan. Mom had come downstairs at some point and saw me kissing Gu Qishan. He Jiayue. A furious roar made everyone in the building poke their heads out. Even the elderly folks out for a stroll stopped in their tracks. Oh my, isn't that old he's daughter? I heard she got the top score in the college entrance exam, but she's applying to a junior college. It's all because of that boyfriend of hers. Did you see how they were kissing just now? Completely inseparable. She must be planning to go to the same school as him. Murmurs and whispers rippled through the crowd. I gripped Gu Qishan's hand tightly, standing protectively in front of him in a silent standoff with my mother. Mom, I'm an adult now. Can you please stop trying to control me? Which university I apply to is my own decision. I'm going to be with Qishan, and that's final. I tossed out a remark, grabbed Gu Qishan's hand, and dashed out of the residential complex. Jiayue, your mom isn't upset with you, is she? He asked with concern. I shook my head, telling him not to bring up such a downer. Gu Qishan suddenly relaxed, not noticing my odd behavior. His phone rang again. It was a voice message from Lin Yao, converted to text. I could even picture her sugary, coquettish tone. Brother Qishan, she's agreed, break up with her right now. Gu Qishan typed a reply. I know, just focus on your own task. I lowered my gaze, hiding the coldness in my eyes. Gu Qishan, who are you texting? Is it Lin Yao? You know perfectly well I can't stand her. I pretended to sneak a glance at his screen. Frowning, I shook off his hand and stormed off. No, Jiayue, don't be angry. Gu Qishan instinctively denied it, turned off his phone, and came chasing after me. He grabbed me, clumsily lying as he tried to coax me over and over again. I looked at him, sneering inwardly. Fool, in my past life, you traded my mother's life for 300,000. In this life, I will trade you for my future. 3. On the day for submitting college applications, Gu Qishan came to pick me up early and took me to a cafe because that whole group of them had agreed to apply together. When the teacher found out I was seriously set on applying to a vocational college, she came looking for me specifically. Teacher Wang stood before me, panting and out of breath. Student He Jiayue, didn't you say you were aiming for Tsinghua or Peking University? What made you change your mind and apply to a vocational college? Mr. Wang, I have my own plans. Mr. Wang frowned, wanting to say more, but I cut him off. Mr. Wang, I've made up my mind. I'm applying to that junior college. Mr. Wang shook his head and walked out of the cafe. The college application system page popped up, and Gu Qishan leaned in close behind me. His breath brushed against the nape of my neck. Seeing me choose the school without a moment's hesitation, a flicker of uncertainty appeared in his eyes as he looked at me. Jiayue, you. My eyes, brimming with a smile, met his gaze. What's up? Perhaps my gaze was too pure and intense, for he averted his eyes and looked down. Why don't we think it over again? How about we both go to Tsinghua University? His voice was very low, almost a whisper. I want to be with you. And besides, there's the 300,000. My fingers trembled slightly on the keyboard as I clicked confirm. In an instant, Gu Qishan practically shouted it out. Moonlight, I'm giving you. I've also selected the same school for him and submitted the confirmation. Then I leaned in and kissed the corner of his mouth. I won't take your money. Don't worry, I have no regrets. I Heard the soft laughter of his friends beside me. Someone even muttered under their breath, "What a fool." I pretended not to hear it before everyone's eyes. We completed this act of rebellion in the name of love. Gucci-shin didn't dare meet my gaze, only holding me tighter, as if trying to meld me into his very being. He led me out of the cafe. My gaze cut through the crowd and landed on a Rolls-Royce not far away. The car window slid down slowly, revealing Lin Yao's face, perfectly made up. When she saw me, a flicker of triumph flashed in her eyes. Then, she switched to an innocent smile and waved at me. Lin Yao wore the latest dress, her designer bag slung over her shoulder as she laughed with an innocent, radiant joy. In her radiant presence, I felt somewhat overshadowed. Her very existence seemed a constant reminder to me of just how ill-suited Gucci-shin and I were for each other. Jiayue, Qi-shin said you two are going to a junior college together. I really admire your courage to give up a prestigious university for love. Yeah, I deliberately tucked my hair behind my ear, revealing the hickey Gucci-shin had left. Qi-shin said he doesn't want to be apart from me. Lin Yao's smile froze for a moment before she softened her voice and spoke to Gucci-shin. Qi-shin, see how much Jiayue cares for you, not like me. I have to go to school all alone. I gave her a smile. Being alone is fine too, but you should worry about a young girl not getting bullied. Hearing this, Lin Yao's fingers tightened, and her face shifted through a series of expressions. I know about Lin Yao's system for swapping college applications. It requires my active consent to initiate. In my past life, I never gave in, which is why they resorted to such desperate measures and had my mother hit by a car. In this life, I'm determined to make her fall from the greatest heights and be utterly shattered under her furious gaze. I took Gucci-shin's hand and walked away. My phone chimed with a bank deposit notification. Your account has received a transfer of 300,000 yuan. Lin Yao, it's time for the hunter and the hunted to switch places. For as the admission date drew nearer, Gucci-shin's guilt towards me grew deeper. Every transfer he made to me was explicitly marked as a voluntary gift. It's really nothing compared to 300,000. He wanted to buy my peace of mind. After I learned the truth, Gucci-shin pulled me into the luxury boutique. He bought me the latest model phone and then wanted to buy me a designer bag. I stopped him with a laugh, saying, "Don't waste your money, save it for later." He pinched my cheek angrily and said, "I'm willing to spend on you." Gucci-shin and I went to see the ocean. He looked at me tenderly. "Luna, we'll be together forever, won't we?" Gazing at the star-filled night sky, a cold smile slowly curled at the corner of my mouth. Yes, I post on my social media feed every day. Everyone calls me a gold digger. To latch onto the Gu family, I even threw away my own future to indulge Gucci-shin in his madness. I become a cautionary tale. It even made the news. Online experts use my story as a cautionary tale for parents of high school students. I don't care, but I would sit alone on the balcony at night, lost in thought with the sea breeze. When Gucci-shin arrived, he saw my profile at its most heartbreaking, a gaunt frame, with tears that refused to fall. "Jiayue, why are you crying?" Gucci-shin's hand trembled as he wiped away my tears. The moment I opened my mouth, a choked sob escaped. "Everyone says I'm terrible, Gucci-shin. Am I really that bad? In high school, everyone said I bullied Lin Yao. Now, they all call me a gold digger, but I never bullied her, and I don't want your money." Gucci-shin seemed to think of something, a flicker of panic flashing in his eyes. "I know you're not. I know. Look at how well he acts." Pity his eyes gave him away. "The only reason he's with me is because Lin Yao said I bullied her, so he's using me to get back at my mom. Money, love, education, they want to use all this to break me, to leave me rotting in the dirt." He held me in his arms, repeating the words over and over. Nestled in his embrace, a faint smile touched my lips. Gucci-shin was becoming more and more attached to me. He always says he wishes time could stand still at this very moment, but the admission results are about to be announced. Lin Yao organized a college acceptance reveal party. She's been boasting everywhere lately that Tsinghua University's admissions office called her. Surrounded by admirers in her exquisite, expensive dress, she beamed with a radiant smile. "Our Princess Yao Yao is truly amazing." "Absolutely, Yao Yao has it all. Wealth, beauty, and top grades. She's the ultimate female lead, not like he Jiayue, who settled for a vocational college just for the money. Our Yao Yao is the last person to worry about finances." Gucci-shin frowned upon hearing this. "What are you all talking about?" Everyone turned their heads, their eyes widening the instant they saw me. In their eyes, I had transformed from a country bumpkin into a graceful swan. He Jiayue. I gave a slight nod. The bullies led by Lin Yao before me were already seething with rage. "So it's true. Once you climb the high branch, you become a phoenix. I'm just afraid of taking a nasty fall when the time comes. I wonder which young lady she is, to be so unafraid of Gucci-shin's imposing presence." Carrying a wine glass, she walked past me and bumped into me, sending me stumbling. Seeing her friend stand up for her, Lin Yao grew even more Defiant, the host took the stage to manage the crowd. Lin Yao had even invited all the teachers from the school to witness her moment of glory. And to trample me underfoot, the mail carrier with the acceptance letter was already at the door. The doors to the banquet hall swung open, one by one. College acceptance letters were delivered. Lin Yao stood proudly in the center, awaiting her acceptance letters from Tsinghua and Peking University. Gu Qishan's hand, holding mine, was slick with sweat. Jiao. Before he could finish, he was interrupted by the mail carrier. Excuse me, are you Ms. He Jiayue, your admission letter has arrived. My heart sank, but I feigned surprise on my face. Mine, but I applied to a vocational college. 5 Everyone gasped in astonishment, for the cover of the admission letter unmistakably read Tsinghua University. How could it be her? Didn't she apply to a vocational college? Did she secretly change her application choices back? That can't be right. I was there when we all submitted our applications together, and she specifically used up all her modification chances. Lin Yao's expression shifted repeatedly, staring at the admission letter in the courier's hand. Her eyes were practically blazing with fury, but she immediately put on a look of absolute confidence. Jiayue, I know you want money again, and you're too proud to admit it, but in front of all these teachers and classmates, you can't collude with the postman to deceive everyone. Jiayue, you should face the consequences of your own decisions. Lin Yao spoke gently, her voice soft yet carrying clearly to every corner of the banquet hall. Everyone was laughing at me, their voices loud and mocking. I lowered my head, my face flushing crimson, and remained silent. Seeing my humiliation, a faint smile touched the corner of Lin Yao's lips, yet she considerately continued speaking. Hey, delivery guy, Jiaoyu has her pride too. Maybe save hers for last. She'd be really upset if you announced her school in front of everyone. With every word Lin Yao spoke, Gu Qishan's grip on my hand tightened. Yeah, man, save he Jiaoyu's for the end, give her a moment to brace herself. The classmates chimed in one after another. Even the teacher who had once believed in me the most now looked at me with utter disappointment in their eyes. The teachers shook their heads repeatedly. Hey, buddy, take a closer look. Whose admission letter is that in your hand? Upon hearing this, the mail carrier lowered their head and examined it carefully. He slapped his forehead and said apologetically, oh, you're right, it's not he Jiayue's, it belongs to Lin Yao. The moment he finished speaking, the banquet hall erupted in uproarious laughter, followed by applause. Ha ha ha, I knew it wasn't he Jiayue's, this is hilarious. Doesn't she feel embarrassed? I knew our Yao Yao was amazing, all that hard work paid off, and she got accepted into Tsinghua University straight away. Lin Yao looked at me and spoke in a comforting tone. It's okay, Jiayue, if you have any regrets, you can always retake the year. After saying that, she hugged me and patted my back gently. He leaned in close to my ear, his voice vicious and triumphant. He Jiayue, you can't beat me, so what if you're a good student? Even if you don't choose a vocational college yourself, it's useless. I will always go to Tsinghua, and you will always rot away in some community college. You like defying me, don't you? Do you think you're safe now that you've latched onto Qishan, that big tree? Do you really think the Gu family would want a poor woman like you, who only cares about money? Oh, that's right, you don't even have an education anymore. Did you know, Qishan never liked you, he was just using you to get your consent, so that I could go to Tsinghua University with him. I hugged her back, beaming with a radiant smile. Just like in the previous life, you still love to show off and can't keep anything to yourself, but I love it. I love watching someone fall from the peak of their happiness and glory right down into the abyss. Is that so? But he said he likes me. Lin Yao, I hope you keep on winning, I whispered into her ear, annoyed by me. Lin Yao let go of her embrace and pushed me away. I stumbled backward a step, and thankfully, Gu Qishan rushed forward to catch me. Yao Yao, you, he instinctively furrowed his brow in reproach. Lin Yao's friends immediately gathered around, but didn't dare make a sound. I had to change the subject. Yao Yao, open it, let's see what Tsinghua's acceptance letter looks like. Lin Yao snorted at me, then put on an air of elegance as she held their hands back. Don't rush, I'll open it later with Qishan. The very next letter in the mail carrier's hand was Gu Qishan's admission notice. Please sign here. Gu Qishan signed it quickly. I saw Tsinghua University printed on the cover. Everyone saw it. Tsinghua only admitted 2 people, and who would have thought it would be Yao Yao and Gu Qishan, their childhood sweethearts, a perfect match from equally prominent families. Looks like someone's dreams have been dashed. She thought she could marry into wealth, but he was just toying with her. I wrenched my hand free from Gu Qishan's grasp, my eyes red-rimmed. Gu Qishan, you lied to me. Gu Qishan frantically tried to grab me, but he was held back by Lin Yao and surrounded by our classmates. Lin Yao's smile was bold and triumphant. He Jiayue, some things just aren't attainable through effort alone. Money, education. Qishan, you have none of them. Yao Yao, hurry up and open Don't waste your breath on that gold digger. Everyone clamored to see their admission letters. With an air of haughty superiority, Lin Yao tore open the envelope. The next instant, her smile froze on her face as she saw what was inside. Those gathered around her saw it too. What's going on? Could there have been a mistake? Yao Yao, didn't you say Qinghua's admissions office already called you? Could the mail carrier have made a mistake? Gasps of shock rippled through the room. Lin Yao kept turning the envelope over in her hands. The words Tsinghua University were clearly printed on the outside. 6. Lin Yao let out a shriek and confronted the mail carrier loudly. This isn't my admission letter. It's He Jiayue's. Did you and He Jiayue scheme together? The mail carrier, frightened by her, backed away repeatedly. No, someone had taken Gu Qishan's envelope and opened it. Let's check Qishan's, and we'll know what's going on. It could be opened. Congratulations to Gu Qishan on his admission too. Tsinghua University. Everyone exchanged bewildered glances. The envelopes from Tsinghua University looked identical on the outside, but their contents were worlds apart. The teachers gathered around as well, for such an unexpected turn of events had never happened before. I made my way through the crowd, and my eyes met Gu Qishan's. Gu Qishan, so you've been lying to me. My lips parted. My eyes filled with the disbelief and despair of betrayal. Gu Qishan pushed through the crowd and ran towards me. Jiayue, listen to me. No, it's not like that. I haven't. My parents changed it for me. I didn't mean to lie to you. I just wanted to hear you say you'd go to community college with me. I never expected you to be so resolute. He hung his head and spoke urgently. I slapped him across the face with all my strength. Lin Yao screamed as she ran towards me, trying to grab my hair, but I dodged her. He Jiayue, you bitch. The mail carrier took out the final envelope. There's another one. This one is for He Jiayue, also from Tsinghua University. A deathly silence fell over the room. Every eye in the room was fixed on me, their gazes filled with shock, confusion, and a hint of disbelief. Gu Qishan whipped his head around to look at me. His lips parted, but it took him a long moment to finally speak. Jiao you, how could you? I ignored her and tore open the envelope. Congratulations to He Jiayue on her admission to Tsinghua University. Lin Yao finally snapped out of it. She pointed at me, her voice shrilled. This can't be. No, why, you promised me. He Jiayue, what trick did you pull? I'm calling the police. You stole my admission information. Watching her furious and flustered expression, I couldn't help but laugh. The moment she finished speaking, her lackey started moving toward me. He Jiayue, you bitch, give Yao Yao's admission letter back to her. Just like before, the moment Lin Yao gave the word, they would all swarm in. The teacher standing at the back snapped out of his daze and rushed to intervene. Gu Qishan wanted to stand in front of me, but Lin Yao grabbed the hem of his shirt. She was crying pitifully, her face streaked with tears, a sight that would tug at anyone's heartstrings. I watched them calmly. Lin Yao, why isn't your volunteer switching system working? Lin Yao stopped crying instantly, a flicker of panic flashing in her eyes before she quickly composed herself. What nonsense are you talking about? I don't understand. I laughed, a mocking laugh. Don't understand. I already agreed to go to the vocational college, so the universities my Gaokao score qualifies for should have been yours. Why isn't it working now? My words completely flustered her. You, how did you know? I looked her straight in the eyes. I know far more than you could ever imagine. Gu Qishan's face turned deathly pale at my words. The bright moon. He thought I would never find out about these things, but I've known all along. I was just playing along with his act. He looked into my eyes, searching for a trace of affection for him, but there was none, only mockery, only glee. Lin Yao, you're such a fool, you don't even understand how your own system works. But then again, a mindless person like you only knows how to bully others. I laughed recklessly, enunciating each word with deliberate slowness. Your system has a fatal bug. It requires me to personally say the words. I am willing to attend a vocational college. I only said I was willing to sink into depravity with Gu Qishan, to rebel, to be a bad student. Lin Yao completely lost control. That's a lie. The system doesn't work like that. She started screaming about her system. Gu Qishan's face also turned deathly pale, and he lowered his gaze. I tapped the cardboard in my hand, counting down the seconds in my head. 3, 2, 1, 7. The sound system crackled to life as the video began playing on the large screen. He Jiayue, you're such a lowlife, just like your broke-ass mother, all dressed up every day. Who are you trying to seduce? Come on, strip her clothes off. Let's all see how much of a slut she really is. Smiling, I pulled a utility knife from my sleeve and pressed it against my neck. Come on. Then the sound suddenly ceased. Perhaps my gaze was too terrifying, as the onlookers outside all gasped in shock. In the video, they gathered around me in the banquet hall. They surrounded me just the same. Then, more and more videos were released. The number of victims featured in the videos kept growing. Besides me, many others like me had suffered their bullying. Some were forced to transfer schools, some succumbed to depression and took their own lives. and some ended up joining their ranks. For 3 years, I fought back, but I couldn't fight back. Lin Yao's family was wealthy, and the others all came from families of considerable means and status. A single word from them could destroy my family and ruin my mother's life. It's fake. This is all fake. Turn it off now. Lin Yao and the other bullies all began screaming, scrambling to shut down the video player. But it was all in vain. Jiayue, are they bullying you? Gu Qishan's eyes were bloodshot, his fists clenched, his voice trembling with disbelief. I raised my head, my gaze icy and silent. Lin Yao screamed hysterically, impossible. The system clearly indicated success. I sneered. Just because it says success doesn't mean it actually worked. Haven't you noticed your system has been offline for a long time? Lin Yao, how does it feel to be played for a fool? You had me bullied, you had Gu Qishan date me to lure me in. Did all your scheming ever account for this? Gu Qishan, did you have fun using me? Gu Qishan frantically grabbed my hand. No, Jiayue, I genuinely came to care for you later on. My gaze towards him was filled with disgust. Gu Qishan, you don't actually think I love you enough to throw away my bright future for you, do you? You're not a child anymore. Don't be so foolish. Gu Qishan's face instantly drained of color. He stared at me, his eyes filled with shock and anguish. Jiayue, is that true? I met his gaze, a trace of grim satisfaction in my voice. Of course, but I should thank you. Without you, Lin Yao would never have let her guard down. With that, I shook off his hand. No, that's wrong. You applied for a college diploma program. You couldn't get into Tsinghua. Your acceptance letter is a fake. Lin Yao shouted, her voice hoarse. The doors to the banquet hall swung open, and the university officials entered. It's true, Lin Yao secured an early admission to Tsinghua University through a competition long ago. She insisted on keeping it quiet and still took the college entrance exam. Lin Yao could no longer contain herself. With eyes blazing red, she charged at me. Jiayue, you bitch, just you wait. I kicked her to the ground and looked down at her from above. Game over. You're the one who's going to be waiting here. The sound of police sirens echoed from outside. Hello. Jiayue is suspected of tampering with college applications and engaging in school bullying. All individuals suspected of involvement in the video, please come with us. I handed over all the evidence to the police truthfully and in full. The school cooperated with the police investigation, and the school leadership apologized for their negligence. I glanced at the noisy banquet hall and walked out without looking back. Behind me, I could hear Lin Yao's cries and Gu Qishan's calls. I didn't linger for a moment. I walked out of the banquet hall, the clamor behind me fading away, as if a farcical spectacle had finally drawn to a close. The phone rang. It was my mother. Jiayue, I heard today is the day the admission letters come out. Mom's voice carried a hint of anger and worry, but there was also a sliver of hope. She hoped I had come to my senses when I submitted my application choices. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. Yes, it's out. I got in. My voice caught for a moment. Mom. I got into Tsinghua. There was a silence on the other end of the line for a few seconds, followed by the sound of my mom's emotional sobbing. Wonderful, just wonderful. I knew you wouldn't give up on your future. I knew you could do it. By the end, she was choked up with tears. I was crying too hard to speak. Thank goodness none of what happened in the past life came to pass. We're both still alive, and the villains will get what they deserve. I wiped my tears and said with a smile, Mom, I'm coming home right now. Let's celebrate together. Her figure was brimming with joy. All right. I'll make your favorite braised pork belly. After hanging up the phone, I looked up at the sky. It was a June day, bright and sunny without a cloud in sight. Thank goodness, there's still time. A week later, I went to work out. I had just left my apartment complex when I heard rapid footsteps behind me. I turned around and saw Gu Qishan. He looked utterly wretched, his face pale, his hair disheveled, and his forehead beaded with sweat. He ran up to me, his voice choked with emotion. Jiayue, you've blocked me on everything. Are you done with me? I nodded. Yes. Didn't we break up? No, wait, let me explain. It's not what you think. I raised an eyebrow, looking at him coldly. Oh, then what is it? So you pursued me and dated me because you actually liked me, and not because Lin Yao said I bullied her and she wanted you to get back at me. Did you know about Lin Yao's scheme all along, and still helped her tamper with my college application, throwing my future away? Gu Qishan opened his mouth to speak, only to find every possible excuse felt utterly feeble in the face of the truth. Meeting my icy gaze, he suddenly dropped to his knees. Luna, I know I was wrong. After we got together, I truly fell for you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for things to turn out this way. As he spoke, tears welled up and fell from his eyes. I let out a cold, scornful laugh. Don't you know, Gu Qishan, do you think a simple sorry can erase everything? If I hadn't given in and said I was willing to go to the vocational college, would you and Lin Yao have resorted to hurting me and my mother to force my hand? Gu Qishan looked up, grabbing my hand and shaking his head repeatedly. No, never, even if you refuse. I would never do anything to hurt you or your mother. I leaned down and brushed the stray hairs from his forehead. You will, Guqishan, you will. You and Lin Yao will scheme to hire someone to cause a car accident for my mother. Then, in my desperate need for money, I'll remember the technical college you mentioned, and I'll agree to it. My mother would eavesdrop and change my college application choices back, but it was already too late. My mother passed away because we couldn't afford her treatment. The acceptance letter I received was for a vocational college, while you and Lin Yao, childhood sweethearts, went off in glory to Tsinghua University. Guqishan reacted as if he had heard something horrifying, repeatedly denying it. I would never do such a thing. He probably never thought himself capable of such cruelty, so why did I see him that way? I gazed into his deep eyes, lost in a daze of laughter. Right, I never imagined that this bright, clear-eyed youth before me would be the executioner who ended my life. He bit his bloodless, thin lips, looking utterly shattered. I straightened up, looking down at him as a smirk played on his lips. Goodbye, Guqishan. 9. In the days that followed, I spent my time enjoying moments with my mom while working on the Tsinghua University research project. News about Lin Yao and that group of bullies kept finding its way to my ears. I heard that ever since she was taken to the police station after that party, she completely fell apart. She couldn't handle the fall from being everyone's darling to becoming the target of their scorn. What she found even harder to swallow was that she had been brought down by me. The bullies themselves were also hit with wave after wave of online harassment. They've now become infamous public figures. Those who resorted to physical violence, in severe cases, will face criminal charges. Furthermore, due to Lin Yao's extensive exposé, the Lin family was also exposed for numerous scandals to cover up their daughter's bullying, which drove the victim to depression and a tragic death. The Lin family suppressed the news and even hired thugs to vandalize and threaten the victim's family. The Lin family was also found to be evading taxes and engaging in corruption and abuse of power. Lin Yao went from being a high and mighty princess to a laughingstock overnight. The Lin family is on the brink of bankruptcy. Her parents were utterly humiliated within their social circle due to their daughter's scandal. No one was willing to lend them a helping hand. They were forced to relocate the entire family. Guqishan wasn't having an easy time of it either. The Gu and Lin families scrambled to distance themselves from each other, but their business dealings were deeply intertwined. While not as severely implicated as the Lins, the Gu family was not entirely innocent either. Guqishan was reprimanded and confined to his home for solitary reflection. He sought me out many times, bringing me flowers and gifts. I turned them all down, one by one. Now, I can support my family on my own. I went shopping at the mall, arm in arm with my mother. I ran into Guqishan the moment I stepped inside. He looked even more haggard, his eyes vacant. The moment he saw me, a light sparked in his eyes. The bright moon. I stopped in my tracks. Jiayue, I know I've made a lot of mistakes, but I will make it up to you. School is about to start. Would you like to go to Tsinghua University together? Guqishan lifted the corner of his mouth into a charming smile as he asked. I've always said that I love seeing him smile like that the most. I'm sorry, but no, and we won't be meeting at Tsinghua. Guqishan's eyes widened. I waved him off. Because I've been sent abroad by Tsinghua University for further studies, so please don't bother me anymore. Gu. After saying that, I took my mother's hand and left. Time flew by. My university life was about to begin. I went with my mom to register at Tsinghua University. The project we worked on won an award, and I received a substantial bonus based on this experiment. I also secured a recommendation from my professor to study abroad for a year. Jiayue, I hope you will return after your studies to contribute to our country. As I was leaving, the Tsinghua professors placed great hopes in me. I delivered a speech as the freshman representative. Life is like a marathon. Along the way, you'll encounter mud, setbacks, and even malicious obstruction from others. But remember, they cannot defeat you. If you are resilient enough, clever enough, and brave enough, you will surely break through the darkness and welcome your own dawn. The auditorium erupted in thunderous applause. I bowed with a smile, and through the crowd, I saw my mother in the audience, her face beaming with a proud and happy smile. Outside the window, the sunlight was perfect, streaming through the glass to fall upon me, warm and bright. I knew that my story was only just beginning. This time, I will move forward with hope and determination, ready to embrace the future that belongs to me. The end. Story 2. On a stormy day, Joey kicked me out of the car to go comfort his depressed and unwell white moonlight. It caused me to have a miscarriage and left me infertile. After being discharged from the ICU, the first thing I did was beg old Master Zhou to help me get a divorce, just as Joey had knelt in the rain 5 years earlier, begging to marry me. After getting the divorce certificate, I didn't wait for Joey to return. I silently packed my bags and left, but Joey went berserk. It's because of you that both Shuyu and I ended up like this. What gives you the right to start over? Only after finally getting old Master Zhou to relent and promise to help me with the divorce did I allow myself to faint, having knelt for over 6 hours fresh out of the ICU. My already frail body was battered by the storm, leaving me utterly debilitated back in the hospital bed. I was seized by a raging fever that night. In my delirium, the memory resurfaced, that day when Zhou received another distress call from his beloved Xia Shuiyue, his face turning cold as he unhesitatingly shoved me out of the car. If it weren't for you, Shuiyue would never have been hurt back then. Now she's having an episode and threatening to take her own life. This is a matter of life and death. And you still dare to stand in my way. Ningzhen, what happened to you? If anything happens to Shuiyue, how could you ever sleep soundly again? His good breeding kept him from uttering blunt, cutting words like vicious or selfish, but the coldness in his eyes left no doubt about his contempt for me. His gaze sent a chill straight through me. Drenched by the heavy rain, I stood frozen outside the car door, staring at Zhou, my lips turning a purplish blue from the cold. He didn't give me an umbrella. Perhaps he forgot, but since he didn't say anything, the driver didn't dare to offer one either. Still, I want to explain myself. I'm pregnant. This child we've waited 5 years for has finally come, and I was just. Yet Zhou had no patience to wait for me. Before I could utter a word, the car door slammed shut. The car sped away before my eyes. It was the suburbs, and with the torrential rain, there were hardly any cars on the road. Fearing for my child's safety, I swallowed my pride and, with a heart-wrenching pain, called Zhou to beg. Zhou, could you give me a ride back to the city? I'll get out halfway. I promise I won't disturb you too. I'm preg. Ningzhen, is this little tantrum of yours really necessary? Zhou's low voice was laced with boundless fury, cutting me off before I could even finish my sentence. You know perfectly well Shuiyue doesn't want to see you. Can't you just give it a rest? He hung up on me without a second thought. When I tried calling back, I found I was already blocked. I called the driver. The phone rang twice before I was blocked again. I crouched down, clutching my stomach, and let out a bitter laugh. I knew it, time and again, every single time. It ends like this. Yet I still have to bang my head against the wall one more time before I finally give up. The cold rain mingled with my warm tears as they silently fell. I said to myself, over and over in my heart, perhaps this is fate too. Zhou and I got together during our freshman year. When you count it up, it's been 10 years now. He was the one who pursued me first. Back then, I didn't know that Zhou had just been stood up by Xia Shuiyue, who had promised they would get into the same university and date openly once they were there. Xia Shuiyue grew up with Zhou. She was his childhood sweetheart and his unattainable goddess, his first love. Elegant and delicate, she was like a jasmine flower with a subtle fragrance. Her slender neck, tall figure, every smile and gesture captivated Zhou's heart and soul. When Zhou confessed his feelings to me, no one told me that his first love had quietly gone abroad to pursue her dancing dream, without even a proper goodbye. So it wasn't until the 3rd year of our marriage, when Xia Shuiyue returned from overseas, that I was kindly informed by friends that Zhou had chosen me simply because my clear, bright eyes looked just like hers when I smiled. Throughout our courtship and the first 3 years of marriage, Zhou was gentle, considerate, and knew exactly how to handle every situation. He was a perfectly suitable and attentive partner in every way. Even my own brother Ninghai, who grew up with me through thick and thin, spoke highly of him. At our wedding, he even declared in front of everyone that he felt completely at ease entrusting his sister to Zhou. It never crossed my mind that all of Zhou's thoughtfulness stemmed from the discipline of another woman. It wasn't until that very moment that the truth finally dawned on me. Yet, I still never once considered divorce. It's not that I haven't had my doubts, questioning the depth of this relationship, but whenever I remember that year right after graduation, when old Master Zhou told me how Zhou knelt outside for a whole day in a downpour, just to take me to meet his family, and fell seriously ill because of it, all that, just to persuade the stubborn old Master Zhou and Zhou's parents, who refused to see me, to give me a chance even after that meeting, when his parents still refused to let me marry into the Zhou family. Zhou chose to stand by me and accept his family's punishment. That year, the pampered young master was kicked out of his home and squeezed into a shabby, 10-square-meter rental apartment with me. We went to the market together, cooked together, cleaned together, and commuted to work together. Through those poor and trying days, Zhou never uttered a single complaint. In the end, I couldn't help but feel my heart ache for him. I watched as his delicate, sensitive skin, unable to afford clothes and bedding of the right quality, frequently broke out in allergic rashes and itched, keeping him awake night after night. Watching his once slender fingers grow rough and calloused from all the washing and cooking, watching him lose over 10 pounds in a year, his once robust and upright frame becoming gaunt and sun-darkened. I was so heartbroken I couldn't sleep night after night, so, after celebrating our 5th anniversary, I quietly went to see old Master Zhou. I said I was willing to leave Zhou. Our lives are worlds apart, and I have nothing to offer him. The most precious thing I can give is to set him free. The manner of our parting doesn't matter, whether it's dignified or messy, it's all the same. I want nothing. To my surprise, I ended up winning old Master Zhou's favor instead. 3. Perhaps it's because those 8 years of sweetness were etched too deeply in my memory, so much so that the torment of these last 2 years doesn't even feel as suffocating. From Qiao Shiyue's return, to Zhou Yi's odd behavior, to the moment I stumbled upon their ambiguous entanglement, the truth was laid bare before my eyes, completely defenseless. Before I could even react, before I could even begin to discern the truth in Zhou Yi's so-called confession to me, Qiao Shiyue was in trouble. In an instant, I was plunged into hell. I will never forget the moment Zhou Yi answered the call about Qiao Shiyue's accident. He shot to his feet, sending coffee cup shards scattering across the floor, yet he seemed utterly oblivious to it. In the next instant, a sharp and complex gaze locked onto me, devoid of any trace of its former affection. There was only coldness, regret, and heartache. The heartache belonged to Qiao Shiyue. The coldness and hatred, however, were mine. From that day on, everything in my life had to take a backseat to Qiao Shiyue. My promising job, on the verge of a promotion, was unilaterally quit by Zhou Yi. Also I could dutifully care for the sick Qiao Shiyue. I was looked down on, yelled at, even slapped. Zhou Yi never stood up for me, just kept telling me to endure it, over and over, because Qiao Shiyue was a patient. After all, in those endless, bleak days, I finally found a sliver of solace in a hobby and managed to secure a chance to study under a master cellist. Yet, the moment Qiao Shiyue expressed interest, Zhou Yi handed it over to her without a second thought, even though she had absolutely no use for it. Every single time I showed the slightest hint of reluctance, it was met with Zhou Yi's cold, detached warning. If it weren't for you, I would have insisted on taking Shiyue home that day. She never would have gotten hurt. You drove her to a mental breakdown, to depression and suicide attempts, and now you're unhappy about doing just a little something to atone for it. I didn't know what to say. I just felt a growing bitterness in my mouth. Zhou Yi has probably long forgotten that my dream was to become a strong, independent woman, to stand by his side with unwavering confidence, making everyone see us as the perfect match. But now, I've given up my career, my dignity, even my passions, all for the sake of so-called atonement. Zhou Yi is completely blind to all my efforts and sacrifices. All his attention and energy were focused on the sick Qiao Shiyue. I, his lawful wife, wasn't even worthy of a sliver of it. I clung to the memory of the sincere affection we once shared, from hopeful anticipation to utter numbness, and this child, who arrived unexpectedly and was lost just as suddenly, became the final straw that broke me, for I didn't expect this. Less than 3 months after the divorce, I found myself slinking back, tail between my legs, to the home I once shared with Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi sat behind the desk in his study, patiently waiting for me to walk right into his trap. I fixed my gaze on him. For the first time, with absolute clarity, I realized he was no longer my lover. He was young Master Zhou of the publicly listed Hengyue Group, a master strategist whose every move shaped the fates of countless people. He was Qiao Shiyue's childhood sweetheart, an aloof and noble young master. I'm back. What will it take to let my brother go? I asked, my voice calm. I was still clutching the heavy suitcase, the light sweat on my brow not yet wiped, not having had a moment to even take a sip of water. I was covered in the dust of the road. Have a seat. Here, have some water first. Zhou Yi ambled over, took the suitcase from my hand, and pulled out the chair for me. His tall, straight frame completely loomed over me. I lowered my eyes and flinched slightly, then quickly shifted aside and took the seat. The divorce was handled with the old man's help. You were abroad at the time, accompanying Miss Qiao on her trip. I waited for you, but you never came. It didn't feel right to overstay my welcome, so I left on my own. I swallowed hard, doing my best to hide the stiffness in my voice. My brother is still in prison awaiting trial. My sister-in-law and nephew have been pleading for help everywhere to no avail. I didn't want to upset Zhou Yi. He's so sharp, so perceptive. I couldn't show a hint of negative emotion. I could only obey unconditionally. Zhou Yi sat back down across the desk. The lights in the room were off, and his expression was hidden in the shadows, making it hard for me to see clearly. Ningzhen, haven't you noticed? Zhou Yi's voice was soft. What? I looked at him, puzzled. What should I be paying attention 2. Had something else happened to Qiao Shiyue? I tried hard to recall if I had overlooked anything before leaving. Is it something else with Miss Qiao? Has the new caregiver been unsatisfactory? We've gone through several, And this one was the one she said she was comfortable with, or is it somewhere else? Is the chef's cooking not to her taste, or is she tired of the stylist or makeup artist and wants a change? I've already discussed all this with her personal assistant, Xiaolan. She should be able to find replacements, or is it something else entirely that's wrong? Zhou just looked at me calmly under that scrutinizing gaze. My expression grew increasingly rigid, and my words began to falter in the heavy silence. My body was tense, and I waited somewhat awkwardly for Zhou Yi's instruction. After a long wait, he finally spoke. Didn't you notice? Zhou Yi's voice was still soft, yet it hit me like a bomb, leaving me dizzy and disoriented. I was in a car accident. My arm is in a cast, and I've only just started walking again. I'm still limping, but I just walked right past you, and you didn't even see me. Ningzhen. 5. It felt like a heavy stone had been dropped into my heart, sinking deeper and deeper. It was a long moment before I heard my own voice, strained and stiff. I'm sorry. I'm so worried about Miss Chiao. Her condition hasn't been very stable these past few years. Zhou Yi just looked at me quietly, saying nothing. A deathly silence fell over the surroundings. The air suddenly grew thick and heavy, like the oppressive stillness before a storm, unbearably stifling. I stole a furtive glance at the person across from me. In the next instant, I was struck by the boundless sorrow in his eyes. That gaze, which seemed to see right through everything, left me with nowhere to hide. The story between Zhou Yi and me wasn't some simple tale of a rich young master and a poor, delicate flower. We are deeply attracted to each other and share the same core values. We're the kind of soulmates people talk about online, the ones with an intense, almost primal, physical chemistry for each other. Sometimes, we understand each other even better than we understand ourselves. Zhou Yi often says we're very much alike. Apart from our vastly different family backgrounds, our choices often align without prior discussion. That was precisely why Zhou Yi refused to break up with me that year. No matter how much his family pressured him, he said a soulmate connection is one in a million. If we let it slip away, we might never find another in this lifetime. He didn't want to live with that regret. I didn't want to have any regrets either. So that year, even though I knew the odds were against us, I still chose to stand firmly by Zhou Yi's side. At that moment, I knew instantly, Zhou Yi had probably already figured it out. I don't love him as much anymore. I was just going through the motions with him, putting on an act. Ningzhen, from the moment you walked in until now, you haven't asked once how I got these injuries or how serious they are. Zhou Yi's voice was calm, but my heart kept sinking. Don't you have a single question for me? Even now, I looked at Zhou Yi and forced a smile. To be honest, I saw it a while ago, but you're the eldest son of the Zhou family, surrounded by countless bodyguards, with your grandfather watching your back. I just thought it was unlikely anything could happen to you, and I thought it was just another one of your arguments with Miss Chiao. I didn't dare ask too much, afraid of making you angry, and also afraid of upsetting Miss Chiao and triggering another episode. Zhou Yi suddenly let out a derisive snort. He lifted his gaze to meet mine, his eyes filled with a profound, heart-wrenching sadness. For years ago, when my stomach condition flared up and I insisted on going on that business trip, and no one could talk me out of it, you were so furious your eyes turned red. You rushed up and slapped me across the face. You said you'd have the bodyguards tie me up and drag me to the hospital if you had to. Afterwards, you went out of your way to hire a nutritionist to help me recover. When I refused to eat the meals, you threatened me with divorce. You said even if people called you a shrew, even if you had to throw a hysterical fit, you were going to make sure I got my health back on track. Ningzhen, do you remember? I lowered my gaze, not daring to meet Zhou Yi's eyes at that moment. My heart was pounding, my mind was racing, trying to figure out an explanation that Zhou Yi might accept. I'm sorry, I had told the family nutritionist. Perhaps I wasn't home, and he forgot to inform me about your injury. Miss Chiao's social media post from a couple of days ago mentioned you two hanging out, so I thought, crash. With a deafening roar, everything on the desk, files, mugs, the computer, ornaments, was violently swept to the floor. Zhou Yi shot to his feet, palms slamming down on the desk, leaning forward with bloodshot eyes. His ragged, heaving breaths betrayed the fury consuming him. Ningzhen, you still haven't asked. 6. I quickly leaned back against the chair, looking at him in shock and helplessness as he rapidly closed the distance. Zhou Yi's low, cold voice sounded in my ear. I'm hurt like this, and you don't even care if my arms and legs will heal properly, or if I'll have any lasting damage. Ningzhen, what on earth am I going to do with you? It suddenly dawned on me that I'd already managed to mess things up before I'd even said a word. My brother. It seemed to confirm my suspicion. The next second, Zhou Yi's cold, icy voice rang out like a demon's. What happened to your brother was my doing. If you want me to let him go, fine, but you have to agree to one thing. I looked up quietly, gazing at the handsome face I once loved so dearly, now so close, and felt a chill settle in my heart. I heard him say, "You, get on your knees and beg me." Those few short words exploded in my mind like a clap of thunder. I closed my eyes. I regretted it. Beyond our mismatched family backgrounds, there was also the overwhelming financial pressure I couldn't resist or fight against. Just like now, I had no choice but to beg. Zhou Ninghai is my only brother, my only family. After our parents passed away unexpectedly, he was the one who held our family together. We're only 3 years apart, and we were both top students, yet, he gave up his chance to go to university as soon as he turned 18. He worked tirelessly to put me through school. When I married into a wealthy family, he never tried to take advantage of it, afraid my in-laws would gossip or look down on us. The person I once loved most in my life was Zhou, but the most important person in my life has always been my brother, Ninghai. Thump. I knelt on the ground, bowing my head in submission. My heart was at peace. Towards Zhou, I held not a trace of hatred, because this is the path I chose for myself. Are you out of your mind? It was strange. Zhou was the one who told me to kneel. But when I did, he panicked more than I did. Flustered, he yanked me to my feet and stormed out of the study in a rage. His movements were so frantic he didn't even notice the cold sweat of pain beating on his forehead. After the loud slam of a door, I stood quietly in the vast study. Tears fell like beads from a broken string, one after another. 7. I only found out from Zhou's nutritionist that he and Xia Shuyue had been in a car accident right after returning from abroad. It was probably due to drowsy driving. Or maybe he hadn't adjusted to the time difference yet. He had been recuperating in the hospital for nearly 3 months and only returned home a few days ago. He's recovering well. The cast on his arm is coming off in a few days. I stayed in the guest room to collect myself, then made a point of going to the kitchen at dinner time to prepare a pork rib soup for Zhou. During the meal, I watched Zhou's expression and served him a bowl. I made this especially for you. Masterly said, this is perfect for you right now. It's nourishing and helps with recovery. I tried my best to mimic my old, caring tone. Because of the earlier unpleasantness, I chose not to ask Zhou about his injury directly. Instead, I contacted a nutritionist I know well. A smart employee knows how to proactively communicate the right things to their employer. I hope Zhou remembers that it was me who, no matter how busy, personally took care of every aspect of his daily life, frequently cooking soups and meals for him by hand, and providing unwavering emotional support beyond material things. I gave him everything I possibly could. I hope he can recall my kindness and, if not for my achievements, then for my sincere efforts, spare my brother. Hearing this, Zhou's cold expression softened slightly, but he still remained silent. I knew he still needed a bit more coaxing. That's all right. I can manage when it comes to coaxing. Zhou, I'm prepared for it to be a process, not something that happens overnight. The days when a single word from me could make Zhou beam with delight are long gone. Between us at the dinner table, despite being ravenous, I barely ate a bite myself, focusing entirely on serving Zhou food and soup. I just hoped that a good meal might lift his spirits a little. Maybe if he's in a better mood, my brother will be okay. What's the story with the divorce certificate? The meal was nearly finished. Zhou sipped his soup slowly, bringing up the matter as if it were an afterthought. His tone was flat, his eyes fixed on the soup bowl. I couldn't read his emotions. With a heart full of trepidation, I had no choice but to carefully weigh my words. I'm sorry. I went for a medical checkup recently and found out that I seem to be infertile. I'm so sorry. I was the one who went to Grandpa. For the past 5 years, you've shouldered all that pressure for me, and yet perhaps we were just never meant to be. Miss Chiao is the one who truly suits you best. For the sake of the company's stability and our family's harmony, I can't continue occupying this position without guilt. You deserve a proper heir, and for the past 2 years, I've felt terribly sorry for Miss Chiao. She loves you so deeply. If she could marry you and have your child, I believe her illness would surely be cured. I'm sorry, Zhou. In our 10 years together, it was always you giving, and me unable to give you anything in return. You know, if all I can do is take from you and drain you, then I'd rather leave. I'm choosing to walk away with nothing, and I won't fall in love with anyone else in the future. No one could ever replace the place you hold in my heart. I hope that you and Miss Chiao will find happiness and fulfillment together. I kept my head bowed, tears falling silently. By the end, my voice had choked up, and I could no longer speak. Tears fell one by one into the bowl, blossoming into sorrowfully beautiful ripples, but I knew these were crocodile tears. All of these explanations were prearranged between Old Master Zhou and me. 8. Before returning to this house, I called Old Master Zhou. begging him to help save my brother, but he was in a difficult position, because when Joey returned from abroad and saw our divorce certificate, he flew into a rage. His eyes blazing crimson as if he wanted to tear the world apart. He was no longer the green young man the Zhou family could push around. Old Master Zhou was unwilling to offend his grandson, who had already grown into a towering tree. He said Joey still had me in his heart, and was just throwing a tantrum to teach me a lesson. He promised that no matter what, he wouldn't let my brother actually go to prison. Ningzhen, your brother will only be detained for a few days. He'll be fine. You should go and placate Joey first. He's absolutely furious this time. Between the lines, he was telling me to appease Joey first, even hinting subtly that the Zhou family wouldn't interfere, even if I were to become his mistress. Yet, he never once mentioned the idea of remarrying because I couldn't bear children, and the Zhou family absolutely needed an heir. After hanging up, I slumped against the wall, clutching my chest. I was so heartbroken I couldn't speak. Their casual remark is a weight I cannot bear in my life. What does it matter if my brother is locked up for a few days? After all, Joey was absolutely furious at that moment. I was so filled with regret that I wished I could travel back 10 years and slap some sense into my lovesick younger self. What does it mean to be brave for love? Why feel sorry for Joey, and who's going to feel sorry for my brother now? Gritting my teeth, I slapped myself hard in a fit of self-loathing. A burning heat quickly rose to my cheeks. My sister-in-law, who had heard the commotion as she passed by, came over with a worried look and asked how my inquiries about my brother were going. I forced a smile, turned my face away, and lied without hesitation. It's nothing serious. Someone just filed a report, so it's a routine check. Joey said he'll be out in a few days at most. My sister-in-law covered her mouth, weeping with joy. She said it was wonderful and thanked Joey profusely. When I made an excuse to leave, she even bought several large bags of local specialties for me to give to Joey. She had no idea that it was actually Joey who had my own brother put away. 9. My brother's small company was already established before I got married. After my marriage, my brother never used the Zhou family's name to do business and always kept it completely under wraps, but the fact remains that I am married to Joey. There are always people who catch wind of it and try to cozy up for a deal, and my brother can't exactly turn them away, probably because things have been going too smoothly for him these past few years. And this time the other party was using the Zhou family's name as a shield. My brother was caught completely off guard. As for being Joey's mistress now, I'm definitely not willing. I wouldn't even want to be Mrs. Zhou anymore, let alone his mistress. But when facing a behemoth like the Zhou family, if I can manage to placate them and part ways amicably, that would be the best possible outcome. I don't want to burn bridges with Joey unless I absolutely have to, so I crafted an image for myself, a woman who, though deeply in love, cannot bear children. For Joey's happiness, I must step aside, no matter how heartbreaking it is. After hearing my explanation, Joey's expression became very complicated. First, there was stunned shock, then his face turned pale, and finally, it revealed a sense of helplessness and absurdity at being toyed with by fate. We could adopt a child. After a long silence, he seemed to relent, speaking with a tone of resignation. Yet we both knew the Zhou family would never accept an heir who wasn't of their own blood, and now that they knew I was infertile, there was even less chance they would ever accept me again. This is a dead end. I'm sorry, but we're just not meant to be. With tears in my eyes, I let out a soft sigh. Just think of what we had as a mistaken encounter. A 10-year-long encounter. Joey let out a bitter laugh, leaned his head back against the chair, and stared blankly at the ceiling. I didn't know what he was thinking, but his slightly reddened eyes and trembling breath betrayed his sorrow. Joey, what happened between us has nothing to do with my brother. He doesn't even know I'm divorced. My sister-in-law has been worried sick about him. Could you please let him go? I know this isn't a good time, but I can't stand the thought of my brother staying in there for another day. I had to take a gamble, betting that Joey still had a conscience. Thankfully, Joey didn't let me down. His low, raspy voice sounded like heavenly music to my ears at that moment. Your brother's fine. I've taken care of it. He'll be out tomorrow. I let out a long, silent sigh of relief. I'd never been so impatient for the next day to arrive. I just hoped nothing would go wrong. 10. That evening, back in the guest room, I took a change of clothes from my suitcase and went to shower. I didn't unpack anything, because I knew Joey would soon come to his senses and realize there was absolutely no chance of us getting back together. I might be able to leave very soon, so there's no need. When I came out, I was surprised to see Joey sitting on the edge of my bed with his head down. He wasn't on his phone, just sitting there in a daze, drying my hair. I walked over, feeling a little nervous. The suitcase lay quietly in the corner, its lid slightly ajar. It wasn't locked, and it looked much the same as when I had left it. He probably didn't see that, right? I clung to that sliver of hope, but the very next second, I suddenly met a pair of crimson eyes. Ningzhen, aren't you going to explain yourself? With that icy, accusatory question. Zhou grabbed a stack of documents from the bed to his right and hurled them violently into my face. The sharp edge of a paper seemed to cut my cheek, the faint sting making me gasp amidst the flurry of papers. I grabbed one at random. It was my miscarriage report. Scattered on the floor were the fetal images from that time. Zhou found out after all. Honestly, he was bound to find out sooner or later. I ran into his special assistant when I was at the hospital before, even though old master Zhou had privately warned the assistant not to speak out of turn. Given my understanding of that loyal subordinate, he would tell Zhou sooner or later. It was inevitable, but if only the timing could have been a bit later, even just one day later would have been better. I felt a pang of regret in my heart, but since I was already here, I had no choice but to accept it with grace. Putting on this insincere act in front of Zhou was far more exhausting than I had imagined. Moreover, I didn't want to wait on Xia Shuiyue for a single day longer, but knowing Zhou as I do, he won't give up easily. Rather than dragging things out with all that uncertainty, it's better to just tear off the mask now. I don't want Zhou to find out the truth one day and have my brother thrown back in jail. I truly wanted a clean break. I truly wanted to preserve the beautiful memories we once shared, but I knew from the start the odds were slim. In fact, by forcing a confrontation, my chances of winning are actually higher. So at that moment, I felt no panic at all. Instead, with a chilling calm, I plunged the first knife into Zhou. Didn't you look at the date of my miscarriage? It was the day you threw me out of the car to rush and save Xia Shuiyue, who'd threatened suicide God knows how many times. I begged you to at least take me back to the city, but you and the driver both blocked me. It was a torrential downpour. I didn't even have an umbrella. Half an hour after you left, I lost the baby. 2 years of hardship have made me afraid to maintain close friendships with anyone. I fear Zhou wrath might fall upon them. To this day, in this vast city, it seems my only recourse is to seek help from old Master Zhou, the only person who maintains a semblance of peace with me. The road conditions were treacherous in the heavy rain. By the time I was found, unconscious on the ground and bleeding from my lower body, nearly 2 hours had passed. I spent over half a month in the hospital. The only visitors were old Master Zhou, who made a brief appearance, and Zhou's parents, who had never liked me from the start. When Zhou and I got married, I thought the whole affair would turn into an ugly scene, but there wasn't. Mrs. Zhou remained composed throughout, maintaining a dignified front in front of others. Our relationship has always been lukewarm at best. We've rarely seen each other over the years. These past 2 years, because of Xia Shuiyue, I borne the brunt of Zhou's misplaced anger and torment. Yet she never took the opportunity to kick me while I was down. I had always assumed that was just her nature, but only now has she finally made her stance clear. Life is long, and the one who laughs last is the real winner. Look at you two. You were so in love when you got married, and now you can't stand each other. Ningzhen, I always knew you two wouldn't make it in the end. Get a divorce. Zhou despises you, and you can't have children anymore. It's better to leave with some dignity now than to be thrown out of the Zhou family by him later. Some of what Zhou's mother said really made sense. Between Zhou and me, things have indeed changed beyond recognition, but it's not that he stopped loving me. I was the one who wanted to pull away first, just like at this very moment, the moment I simply stated the truth. Zhou was so devastated he could hardly breathe. His face instantly turned as pale as a sheet. His eyes were vacant. His fingers clutched his chest tightly. His labored, trembling breaths like those of a dying fish. His once proud spine was now bent under the weight. Zhou, let's part ways amicably. Your family will never accept me again, and I can never forget that our child once existed. You must know as well as I do that what we had is long gone. It's better if we let each other go, return to our own paths, and start over separately. I couldn't bear to look any longer and turned my face away as I spoke. If everything could end here. I didn't want to keep hurting the person I once loved so deeply, but things didn't go as I wished. When Zhou looked up again, his eyes were bloodshot, and he spoke with stubborn determination. Ningzhen, after everything that's happened between me and Shuiyue, how dare you think you can just start over? 12. I gave him an inscrutable look. I thought Zhou had come to his senses this time, but it seems he's still not quite there yet. So, are you and Xia Shuiyue in this situation because of me? I tried to guide Zhou into voicing his true thoughts. He certainly didn't. Disappoint, isn't it? Shuiyue is back in the country, as her childhood friend. Am I not even allowed to have a meal with her? I've already been honest with you. Yes, I had feelings for her, but that's all in the past. We're married now, and Shuiyue and I have never once met up alone in private. Why are you still so jealous? if it weren't for your irrational jealousy. I never would have let those two men take a drunk Shui away right in front of me. Then none of this would have happened to her. Ningzhen, I don't want to use overly harsh words to describe you, but for 2 years, you've witnessed every single one of Shiyue's emotional breakdowns, her depression, her suffering, and yet, you haven't shown a shred of genuine remorse. I'm so disappointed in you. Just as I thought, the mere mention of Xia Shuyue made Zhou Yi lose all sense of reason. A deep sorrow welled up inside me. Zhou Yi, I wasn't lying to you. Even if my period was painless 10,000 times, it doesn't mean it would never be painful again. You saw it yourself that day, the cold sweat on my face, my pale lips. I was just overworked during that period, and after getting caught in the rain and taking a cold shower the day before, my period came on suddenly with excruciating pain. Zhou Yi chose to take me to the hospital for my period cramps, leaving behind Xia Shuyue, who was drunk after drinking with friends because she was in a bad mood. I never expected something like that to happen. What's more, I never imagined that Zhou Yi thought my pain was fake the entire time. Upon hearing this, Zhou Yi just sneered coldly. I know he still doesn't believe me, but I'm done holding back because I've realized that my 2 years of silent endurance have been nothing but a joke. Zhou Yi, no matter what you think, I am not at fault in the slightest regarding Xia Shuyue. The real wrongdoers were those two criminals, and they have already faced justice. If you pity Xia Shuyue and are willing to pay for her future, fine, but don't drag me into it. After my brother is released tomorrow, I will leave. You will never see me again. You think I'm unrepentant, but I'm just as dissatisfied with you. For 2 years, you failed to distinguish right from wrong, and you've been a profound disappointment to me. My defiant attitude must have provoked Zhou Yi, as his expression instantly twisted into a snarl. Don't even think about it. If you had a clear conscience, why would you willingly stay at the hospital for 2 years, waiting on Shuyue? With your temper and pride, you'd never let her degrade you and trample on your dignity like that. Ningzhen, don't play the victim. You're just atoning for your own sins. And your brother, he can rot in there for all I care. He has no one to blame but himself for having a sister like you. He worked his fingers to the bone to put you through everything, but forgot to teach you basic decency. He deserves every bit of this. Smack, tears welling in my eyes. I slapped Zhou Yi across the face with all my might. So he had seen me suffer all along, yet chose to stay silent and turn a blind eye. I feel like I was blind back then, and now I'm even dragging my brother into this mess. Of course, it's not for Xia Shuyue. I know she's been faking her illness the whole time. It's for, I paused, but Zhou Yi pressed on aggressively. For what? Let's see what excuse you can possibly come up with now. I closed my eyes, letting the tears fall slowly. It was for you. From the moment Xia Shuyue got into trouble, Zhou Yi's heart was in turmoil. The one who was truly sick was never Xia Shuyue, but my Zhou Yi. 13 For 2 years, Zhou Yi was like a man possessed. The moment he faced Xia Shuyue, he would obey unconditionally, no matter how outrageous her actions were. He always found a way to justify them. The therapist told me that Zhou Yi had lived a life of such ease in his early years, with little exposure to the darker aspects of human nature. So, when he learned that his former idealized love had met a tragic fate due to his own negligence, his world instantly shattered. This is a man who became ill precisely because he was too upright and kind-hearted. He is still my soulmate. I have no reason whatsoever to give up on him, but I never expected this. This silent act of redemption ended up draining every last drop of love I had for Zhou Yi. At first, I thought you'd come to your senses in a month, maybe 2, or at most, half a year, but then, 3 months ago, I lost the baby. I finally understand. I can't save you. Perhaps only by being with Xia Shuyue can you truly heal. That's why I chose to leave. Zhou Yi, I'm truly exhausted. Let's part ways amicably. I know you well enough. You'd never actually send my brother to prison. You were just trying to scare me. But please, don't joke about things like that. My sister-in-law and nephew were terrified. Tears streamed down Zhou Yi's face in heavy drops. He suddenly stood up, walked over, and pulled me into a desperate embrace, planting frantic kisses all over my face. I was only stunned for a moment before turning my face away impatiently. Perhaps my gesture was too distant. As a flicker of hurt passed over Zhou Yi's face, he spoke, his voice choked with emotion. Ningzhen, don't you love me anymore? So, you don't love me at all anymore? I looked at him calmly. You already know the answer, don't you? There are 2 things in this world that cannot be hidden, love and a cough. Not loving is also an option. A flash of unguarded ferocity crossed Zhou Yi's face. What about your brother? I cut him off. Zhou Yi, I haven't been Mrs. Zhou for 5 years for nothing. If you push me, be prepared to see yourself and Xia Shuyue splashed across the headlines, and your company. You wouldn't want me showing up at your rival's firm, would you? So don't force my hand. I know you could never bring yourself to cross that moral line. Let's end things here. If possible, I'd rather not draw swords against the one I once loved, but if he hurts my brother, then I won't hesitate either. 14 Showy Side Story 1. From physical attraction to physical repulsion, it turns out 2 years is all it takes. That night, when I tried to force myself on Ningzhen, I was caught off guard and wounded by the unmistakable disdain in her eyes. In the end, I backed off. I don't know how things between Ningzhen and I ended up like this. She guards against me as if I were her sworn enemy. Of course, I can't push Ningzhen into a corner with no way out. That would truly leave us with no chance at all. I need to think this through carefully. After letting Ningzhen go, I meticulously replayed every single thing I had done over the past 2 years. I realized what a complete bastard I had been. I was wrong from the very beginning. The night Shuiwei had her accident, I had already lost control since childhood. I have practiced rigorous self-discipline and held myself to the highest standards in both ability and character. My life was always perfectly under control. That night, it felt as if my own moon had been violently torn from the sky and cast into the mud. I lost my mind in an instant. I knew it wasn't Ningzhen's fault. I was just looking for an excuse, a way to condemn her from my self-righteous moral high ground. I hadn't realized it yet. Too much adulation can cloud one's judgment and stir up restless thoughts. The effusive flattery from colleagues and business partners, the subtle hints of praise from family, and even Ningzhen's unwavering, devoted care. It made me completely forget how difficult it was for Ningzhen and me to finally be together in the first place. I had lost all reason to the point of placing my idealized white moonlight above Ningzhen, thoughtlessly venting my pain onto her. I had forgotten that in this world, no one is truly indispensable to another. Ningzhen doesn't know that my car accident wasn't caused by fatigue driving at all. It happened on the road when, after the trip ended, and I returned home, I saw that divorce certificate. I drove like a madman to find her, and the accident was caused by speeding. During the 3 months of recovery, my mind had long since cleared, but I didn't dare admit it. I tried to stay on my moral high ground and keep blaming Ningzhen, yet, under Ningzhen's cold indifference, my defenses slowly crumbled, piece by piece. I confirmed that her feelings for me had vanished completely. Ningzhen is a very clever person. If I were to lose my mind, like I did the past couple of years, she would coax and deceive me into letting her go. If I regained my senses and she couldn't fool me, she'd lay out the facts and explain the pros and cons, forcing me to back down. I could only watch helplessly as she slipped through my fingers like sand. 2. I sent Xia Shuiwei away. Her family went bankrupt 2 years ago. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come back to me, and no one would have dared to lay a finger on the young lady of the Qiao family. I do hold some fondness for her from our youth, but that's all there is to it. Ningzhen and I are the most compatible people in the world. We trust and understand each other completely. After I took back the house and money I had given Xia Shuiwei, she refused to accept it and came crying and making a scene at my home and office. Looking at the woman sobbing pitifully on the floor, it suddenly dawned on me. All these years, I had been mistaking a fisheye for a pearl. I had mistaken Xia Shuiwei, who was merely a fisheye, for a precious pearl. Yet the real pearl, I had cast aside onto the ground. After dwelling on these thoughts, I was so distressed that night I couldn't sleep. I took 2 sleeping pills, but my rest was still fitful. In my dream, I saw Ningzhen smiling at that lanky, dopey-looking senior from the class next door. Not long ago, Ningzhen returned to the workforce, joining that very senior's company. He had once pursued her, but was flatly rejected. As I passed by Ningzhen's company, I happened to see him fawning over her, fetching tea and water, bustling about with great enthusiasm. Is it appropriate for a company vice president to be buttering up a junior employee like that? His intention to pursue Ningzhen is so obvious, even a blind man could see it. What a pity. All his efforts are in vain. Ningzhen would never like him. I started making my presence known to Ningzhen more often, deliberately giving that shameless senior a hard time. But on one occasion, I happened to overhear Ningzhen's conversation with him. As for my ex-husband, it's just not possible anymore. He's a bit terrifying. When we were going through the divorce, he had my brother put away. How scary is that? He dared to send my brother to prison just because he was in a bad mood. What if one day he gets upset and stabs me? Oh, really? Ha ha ha. So you don't like kids either. When I left, I was in tears. I know Ningzhen's words were meant for me. I crossed her line, and she will never look back. But I don't believe that fawning vice president when he says he doesn't like kids. They're all only child-rich kids from wealthy families. I absolutely refuse to believe their parents would let them be child-free. 3. After 2 years of drinking bitter medicine, Ningzhen gave birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. That deputy general manager kept showing up in front of me, intentionally or not, always speaking with a sarcastic and insinuating tone. They say one generation plants the trees, under whose shade another generation rests. So, my question for you, Manager Zhou, is why do some predecessors only seem to dig pits? I kept my eyes downcast and said nothing. He's got a full house with both a son and a daughter, and here I am, still single even though they have 2 kids together. Ningzhen refuses to marry him. It's definitely because he's not good enough. What a joke. I left the party early. I only had 2 drinks, but for some reason, I'm feeling a bit dizzy back at home. I pulled out that crudely wrapped cardboard box from the very bottom of the drawer. Take out the note inside. The familiar handwriting on it had grown faint from my constant touching. It was a question and an answer. What is physical attraction? It's a loss of reason, a moth flying into the flame. It's knowing the futility, yet proceeding regardless. The date at the bottom was from when Ning Zhan and I lived together in that rented apartment. I had always thought, in this relationship, I stooped to conquer for Ning Zhan, enduring every hardship. So even if I became a bit arrogant later, it was only right for Ningzhen to bear with it. It wasn't until I saw that note that I finally understood. It turns out that back when I was fighting for love, Ningzhen was also swimming against the tide. I finally saw the light, but it was already too late. The end. That's the end of the first story. I hope you enjoyed it. The next ones will be even more exciting. So let's continue the journey together. The 10th year by the young mafia master's side. These hands, meant for healing, were instead used to dismember bodies and clean up bloodstains for him. Beneath my white coat, a bulletproof vest was always concealed, yet he fell in love at first sight with the albino patient I was treating. He called her his snow elf, lavishing a fortune to build her a private ice castle, shielding her from the world with impenetrable security. It wasn't until I stumbled upon the marriage registry that I saw the shocking entry, divorced. I confronted him in a frenzy, but Fu Hanqing just lit a cigarette with utter indifference. Luolua's health is fragile. I promised her a proper wedding. I can give you any compensation you want. Consumed by resentment, I publicly slapped Su Luoluo right at their wedding ceremony. That very night, my gravely ill mother was tied to the front of a dump truck. Shuyu, you shouldn't have touched Luoluo. Consider this your lesson. I knelt on the ground, begging him to stop, but as he slammed the accelerator, my mother's blood and flesh sprayed across my face. Clutching my agonizing stomach, I screamed and blacked out. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I discovered I had been divorced. This time, I didn't dare ask any questions. I booked a flight that very night, determined to flee with my mother to a place Fu Hanqing could never find. Ms. Shu, the system indicates you are currently listed as divorced. The clerk's polite voice jolted me back to reality. My eyes were wide with panic, and the metallic scent of my mother's blood seemed to linger in my nostrils. My voice was thick with emotion as I asked, when did you file for divorce? July 12th. A sharp, stabbing pain shot through my heart. July 12th was our 7th wedding anniversary. That day, I had bought flowers and candles, and had meticulously prepared a whole table of food. I waited until the candles melted and the roses wilted, but Fu Hanqing never showed up. So that's where he was, filing for divorce. Swallowing the bitter lump in my throat, I got up to leave, only to spot that familiar Maybach just as I was about to step out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. In my past life, I had rushed over without a second thought to confront him, fearing that Su Luoluo would discover our relationship. Fu Hanqing smashed the butt of his pistol against my jaw, shattering it. At that thought, I quickly ducked behind the fire door. Moments later, the car came to a stop. The imperious and domineering Fu Hanqing, acting like a mere valet, walked around to the passenger side, opened the door, and raised an umbrella to block the scorching sun. Su Luoluo was pure white from head to toe, with silver hair and gray eyes. Standing in the sunlight, she looked like a snowman that might melt at any moment. Fu Hanqing gently guided her inside. Su Luoluo pressed her pale lips together, fidgeting nervously. Mr. Fu, do you really intend to marry me? Of course. I've been dreaming of this day. Su Luoluo placed a hand on her slightly rounded belly, but my illness could be passed on to the child. Fu Hanqing's gaze was tender and adoring. I don't care. You're the little sprite heaven sent to me. I only want the children you give me. A sudden, sharp pain shot through my lower abdomen. I clutched my stomach tightly, tears welling up in my eyes. Only after I saw them walk into the Civil Affairs Bureau did I hail a cab and go to the hospital. As I lay on the operating table, my senior colleague from the same mentor advised me, Xiao, your uterine wall is naturally thinner than most. This might be the only child you'll ever have. With red-rimmed eyes, I whispered, I'm divorced. This child, it's not the right time. A cold liquid was injected into my body, and my consciousness began to fade. In a daze, I saw Fu Hanqing again, pressing his ear against my abdomen, smiling as he said he wanted to hear the baby's heartbeat. I saw him flipping through the dictionary, saying he wanted to give our child a good name. I saw him holding me, promising to be a good father. Finally, all the scenes froze on the image of him holding Sulualuo, saying, "I only want a child from you." An hour later, I walked into my mother's hospital room, my face deathly pale. She was sleeping peacefully with the help of a ventilator. I signed the transfer application without hesitation. "I'll handle all the transfer procedures myself. Keep it quiet, and above all, don't tell Mr. Fu." Immediately after, I picked up my phone and booked a flight to Switzerland for 1 week later. When the booking confirmation text from the airline came through, the tension that had been coiled tight within me finally began to ease, just a little. "Fu Hanqing, this time, I'm the one leaving you." As I left the hospital, the setting sun had already dipped below the horizon. I was driving in a daze, having just rounded the corner. Suddenly, an out-of-control truck came barreling straight toward me. I swerved the steering wheel hard, but it was too late to avoid it. The world spun violently before everything went black. I was pinned in the driver's seat, completely immobilized. I didn't need to think twice. I knew it was Fu Hanqing's enemies coming for revenge. My phone was shattered and wouldn't turn on. Just then, a familiar black Maybach drove past the intersection. It was Fu Hanqing's car. "Fu Hanqing," I shouted with all my might, struggling desperately to get his attention. My heart nearly stopped the moment the car slowed down. He saw me, but the next second, the car accelerated again and sped away from the intersection without hesitation. Through the car window, I saw Fu Hanqing raise his hand to cover Sulualua's eyes. I lost the strength to speak another word. Sulualua was in the car. He wouldn't stop. It was a scene of vengeance and a car wreck. He couldn't bear for Sulualua to witness it. The last of my strength was fading, and my consciousness began to waver. When I opened my eyes again, I was staring at the stark white ceiling of a hospital room. The door was ajar, and I overheard one of Fu Hanqing's men speaking to him. "Boss Fu, what if Madam sees Miss Su? If she starts digging, we probably won't be able to keep it hidden." Fu Hanqing flicked away his cigarette butt and ground it out under his heel. "Don't worry about any of that. Your only job is to keep Luo safe. She's too pure, not like the rest of us. Shiyu has plenty of dirty tricks up her sleeve. Luo is too naive. She's no match for her. If it comes to it, we can use Shiyu's terminally ill mother. She's her only family left. Shiyu can't just ignore that." I clenched the sheets, biting down hard on the soft flesh inside my cheek. "Back when he proposed to me, he said, 'I will always protect you. I won't let a single harm come your way.' The same protective instinct, the same promise, but now directed at Sulualuo. The person he once shielded so protectively behind him has now become, in his words, a dangerous individual with underhanded methods." Hearing the sound of approaching footsteps, I closed my eyes again, then slowly opened them. "You're awake." I had someone look into it. It was the Wang family's people. "This is the settlement agreement. Sign it, and they've agreed to relinquish the plot of land in the West District." He walked up to me. Our eyes met. I was left speechless. I nearly got killed, only to become a bargaining chip in his business deal. A chill settled in the depths of my heart. "Fu Hanqing, when did you decide this? Was it the second you saw my car crash, or when you learned the Wang family was coming for me?" Fu Hanqing's brow furrowed slightly, displeased by my probing. I knew better than to ask again. Spelling things out wouldn't do me any good. As if to placate me, "Fu Hanqing has been working from my hospital room these past 2 days." He kept his earbuds in constantly, though, and the corners of his mouth would occasionally lift into that smile I once knew so well. It suddenly came back to me. The scene of our first meeting 10 years ago. Back then, he was being hunted by enemies, lying in a filthy, dark alley, covered in blood, like a beast cornered in a hopeless situation, fierce yet vulnerable. I should have called the police, but the moment our eyes met, pity stirred in my heart. I turned and walked toward him. Little did I know, that single step plunged me into an abyss. Later, he took a bullet to the chest while shielding me. The 18-hour-long fight for his life in the operating room. It was the first time I realized that in his world, innocence and kindness couldn't protect anyone. In 10 years, I went from being the most promising surgeon at a top-tier hospital to a notorious back-alley doctor in the underworld. I thought we could stand side by side as equals, but to him, I was no different from the rest, just as tainted. I look at these hands, slender, supple, they should be holding a scalpel to heal and save lives. Yet what they do most is dissect corpses and clean up crime scenes. I thought of Sulualuo again, as pure and crystalline as the first snow of winter. Suddenly, it all felt so pointless. All my resentment and bitter frustration just hit a wall of cotton, swallowed without a sound. After being discharged from the hospital, Fu Hanqing used a business trip as an excuse and never came back. The day before my flight, I wanted to pray for my departed child, but then I unexpectedly ran into Sulualuo when I arrived at the church. Sulualuo was tending to a little girl's wound. Perhaps I pressed too hard, the girl shrieked and shook her hand, splattering the antiseptic everywhere. I walked over and took the cotton swab from her hand. There's still glass in the wound. Applying medicine will only push it deeper. This was the first time Sulualuo and I had been alone together since Fu Hanqing's affair, unaware that I was Fu Hanqing's ex-wife. She looked at me with delighted surprise. Dr. Shu, your timing is perfect. A faint smile touched my lips. To my surprise, I felt calmer inside than I had imagined. She began telling me about her recent life, taking my hand and placing it on her belly. Dr. Shu, if it weren't for you, I would have died in that car accident. When my baby is born, would you be her godmother? A gentle swell in her abdomen held a secret heartbeat. Suddenly, I remembered the indistinct mass of flesh I had glimpsed in the medical waste bin the day I left the operating room. My palm stung as if pricked by a needle, and I jerked my hand back. Sulualuo stared at me, bewildered. I'm sorry, I just lost my child. Sulualuo's eyes instantly welled up with tears. Flustered and at a loss, she apologized to me, then even knelt before the statue of the Virgin Mary and began to pray devoutly. Lord, please guide this pure soul back to heaven, and comfort this grieving mother. I was stunned, and even felt a pang of pity for her. I wanted to tell her to leave Fu Hanqing. Getting close to him only brings you closer to misery, but I stared at Sulualuo's belly and chose to seal my lips shut. If Sulualuo knew about my relationship with Fu Hanqing, she would be devastated and break up with him. When the time comes, Fu Hanqing will surely go mad with vengeance against me. Bloody memories from a past life flooded my mind. Using confession as a pretext, I hid inside the confessional. I opened the surveillance feed from my mother's sanatorium, and only when I saw her taking a leisurely stroll in the garden did my nerves finally settle. My mother is my only family this time. I absolutely will not drag her into the world between Fu Hanqing and me. When I had composed myself and stepped out of the confessional, the cold, dark muzzle of a gun pressed against my forehead. Every muscle in my body tensed up as I snapped my gaze towards Sulualuo. She had already collapsed limply onto the ground. I cursed my luck under my breath, only to be knocked unconscious by a rifle. But the next second, when I came to again, I found myself in an abandoned warehouse, tied up together with Sulualuo. Sulualuo's voice trembled with tears. The debt was paid off long ago. What more do you want? Hanqing warned you. A sharp slap cut Sulualuo's words short. The leader, a man with a scarred face, grabbed her by the hair. He paid the money back, but he broke 3 of our boss's ribs. In our line of work, how are we supposed to swallow that insult, since he's so fond of you? I'm gonna take my sweet time torturing you to death today. So he's just a low-level loan shark thug. No wonder he didn't recognize me. I caught my breath for a moment, flicked the blade out from my ring, and started sawing through the ropes. This isn't my first time being tied up, so I picked up a thing or two. Seeing I was awake, the man with the scarred face rifled through my Hermes wallet. Miss Shu, tough luck. 3 million. Tell your family to wire the money. Dr. Shu, I'm sorry I got you into this, but don't be afraid. My husband is very capable. He'll come for us. Her eyes were filled with adoration, as if she regarded Fu Hanqing as her savior. My hand paused, and I didn't respond to her. Suddenly, Scarface cursed with a furious fuck, raised his phone, and snarled, damn it, he dares not believe me. Looks like I'll have to send him a little gift. He flung the knife down in front of me and Sulualuo. Guards, cut the child from her womb and deliver it to him. My pupils instantly contracted. If Sulualuo died here today, he would tear me to pieces in his rage. Sulualuo was so terrified she wept uncontrollably, shrinking back again and again. Please, I'm begging you, don't do this to me. Don't hurt my child. Her white dress was stained with grime, her nose red from crying, like a little white rabbit that had stumbled into a den of wolves. Her falling tears only served to further ignite the violent urges of these madmen. Damn, boss, let us have a go at her first. This chick is too hot to handle. Seeing them about to drag Sulualuo away, I cut through the ropes and charged forward. I rammed into Scarface, knocking him aside, and shielded Sulualuo behind me. What the hell are you all standing around for? Get him. The blonde guy clutched his nose, let out a furious roar, and his lackeys swarmed in all at once. Beat him up for me. Beat him to a pulp. Then we'll take our time with him. Outnumbered and overpowered, I could only shield Sulualuo beneath me, holding her tight. Dr. Shu, please stop. Stop hitting him. She screamed and tried to push me away, begging them to stop. She was utterly consumed by despair at That very moment, the iron gate was smashed open with a crash by an SUV. Gunfire erupted all around. All eyes turned toward the door. Fu Hanqing rushed over to Su Luoluo and pulled her into a tight embrace. "Thank goodness you're all right," Su Luoluo cried until she lost her voice, and in her moment of relief, she fainted outright. He carried Su Luoluo onto the ambulance, gently smoothing her stray hairs. I scrambled up from the ground, meeting Fu Hanqing's icy gaze. My heart sank. "Shuyu," his voice was soft, yet it froze the blood in my veins for an instant. "Why are you with her?" I swallowed the metallic taste in my throat and forced a smile. "We just ran into each other. Do you believe that?" A vicious slap sent me crashing to the ground in an instant. "Shuyu, do you even think before you lie?" I spat out a mouthful of blood, ultimately keeping to myself that it was all to pray for our child's blessing. He stomped on my fingers, grinding them down mercilessly. The searing pain tore a scream from my throat. "When did you start planning this?" "I didn't." Fu Hanqing turned and fired a shot into Scar's thigh, then leveled the gun at his head. "Didn't she have one?" The scar-faced man cried out in pain, pointing a trembling finger at me. It was Miss Shu who came to me first. She offered me money to get revenge on Su Luoluo." "You're lying," I snapped, cutting him off sharply, but his man held my shoulders down firmly. Fu Hanqing let out a low chuckle, then put a bullet straight through Scarface's head. "Shuyu." He crouched down and gripped my hand tightly. "If you harm what's precious to me, you'll pay with something of equal value." With a sickening crack, he snapped my index finger. The pain was so intense my vision went black, my whole body convulsing. "Fu Hanqing, how dare you do this to me?" He stood up, straightening his cuffs, and said coolly, "Break the rest of them." "Do it." 2 words, uttered softly into the air. I was slammed roughly against an oil drum, my hands forced open. "Fu Hanqing," I screamed hysterically, "I hate you. I never should have saved you 10 years ago." His retreating figure faltered for a moment. In the end, he did not look back. Before the searing pain hit, I remembered how he had held my hand, kissing it again and again, saying, "My Dr. Shu's hands are priceless. They bring the dying back to life." 10 years ago, I saved him from the brink of hell. A decade later, he severed the last thread connecting us with his own hands. 3 o'clock in the morning. I lay limp in the abandoned factory, my fingers twisted at grotesque angles. Several aides rushed over with medical equipment. The factory behind me was engulfed in raging flames. I sat in the car heading to the airport, my forehead beaded with cold sweat. Destroy all records of my identity the moment the plane takes off. I want the name Shuyu to vanish completely from this world. In the hospital, the moment Su Luoluo regained consciousness, Fu Hanqing knelt on one knee to apologize, blaming himself for failing to protect her. Su Luoluo simply shook her head and instead asked about me. "What about Dr. Shu? Is she alright?" Fu Hanqing gently stroked Su Luoluo's head. "Why are you so kind? I really love you like this." Su Luoluo felt her cheeks flush from his words, even forgetting to ask about my situation. Only after Su Luoluo had fallen asleep did Fu Hanqing leave the hospital room and instruct his subordinate, "Take the divorce papers to Shuyu and transfer 40% of my shares to her. Make sure she's out of the villa before dawn." But the next day, Fu Hanqing waited at the corporation in vain. As Shuyu never showed up, he held back his frustration again and again, watching the messages he'd sent vanish into the void. Beyond the irritation, an indescribable unease lingered in his heart. Shuyu had never ignored his messages before. Where is she? How many times does he have to ask? The subordinate hesitated before speaking up. "Mr. Fu, your wife might be at the hospital." Fu Hanqing's brow furrowed slightly as he suddenly remembered. He had ordered someone to break all 10 of Shuyu's fingers yesterday. No wonder she hadn't replied to his messages. He handed the divorce certificate to his subordinate and said coldly, "Find the hospital where Madam is receiving treatment and give this to her." Just as the subordinate was about to turn and leave, Fu Hanqing called him back. "After you locate Madam, leave a few people to keep watch on her. She's highly vindictive and might resort to underhanded tactics against Luoluo. The moment you discover Madam is harboring any improper thoughts, send her straight to Qingshan Mental Hospital. She can be released only after Su Luoluo's child is born." That evening, Fu Hanqing returned home. The master bedroom was spotless, with no trace of Shuyu to be found. That sense of unease washed over him again. He was just about to call his subordinates to ask. The sound of a piano drifted up from downstairs. "Is she back?" "Of course, where else could she possibly go but here?" But over the years, her fangs have grown sharper. He needed to use this chance to file them down properly, or she would surely hurt Su Luoluo. With this thought in mind, Fu Hanqing went downstairs and pushed open the door to the music room. Under the moonlight, the girl's hair cascaded like a waterfall as her fingers danced lightly across the piano keys. It was a picture of pure innocence, yet, Fu Hanqing's gaze abruptly darkened. Who gave you permission to touch this piano? He built this piano for Shuyu with his own hands. Those hands, so skilled with a scalpel, were equally suited for the piano. On every night after she had cleaned up the scene for him, Shuyu would always play Mozart's Requiem here. He knew she was atoning for her sins. The music came to an abrupt halt. Su Luoluo looked up in a panic, meeting Fu Hanqing's somewhat icy gaze. The butler said I could look around, sorry, seeing the tears welling in Su Luoluo's eyes, Fu Hanqing's stern expression softened. He stepped forward and drew her into his embrace. I didn't mean to snap at you, it's just, this piano is a keepsake from my late wife. If you like it, I can have a new one custom made for you. Alright. Su Luoluo's heart ached for him, and the sting of his earlier harshness melted away completely. Even 5 years after his wife's passing, such affection still endured. She grew increasingly convinced that Fu Hanqing was a good husband and would be a good father. At 3 o'clock in the morning, Fu Hanqing's phone rang frantically. It was one of his subordinates. His finger, poised to answer, hovered in the air for a second. Having spent years in the underworld, he had a keen sense for danger. He had a gut feeling that the moment he answered this call, he was about to lose something very important. The call connected, and his assistant's frantic voice came through the receiver. Mr. Fu, Madam is missing. We can't find her, but I found Madam's medical records. I think you need to see them, Mr. Fu Hanqing was just about to hang up. The voice on the other end hesitated, then added, there's one more thing, Mr. Fu, your wife has found out about the divorce. When Su Luoluo woke up, she saw Fu Hanqing sitting motionless on the balcony, the floor littered with cigarette butts. What happened? Could it be that something went wrong with the case he's handling? Working at the procuratorate is truly demanding. Fu Hanqing heard the noise and looked up, giving Su Luoluo a deep, penetrating glance. Last night, he went over the material sent by his subordinates again and again. Shuyu is pregnant. The day of the abortion was the very day he and Su Luoluo registered their marriage. It was only an hour apart. He understood in an instant. Shuyu must have seen him and Su Luoluo going to get their marriage license, yet she dared to abort his child. At first, he was so furious he wanted to drag Shuyu right in front of him and demand an explanation. Turning his head, he saw Su Luoluo standing in the moonlight. Her white dress and silver hair seemed to melt into the night, beautiful yet ethereal, like a ghost about to fade away. She was nothing like that scheming woman. Maybe it was for the best. They were divorced now. After all, there was nothing left between them. Her leaving actually saved him a lot of trouble. He should be thanking Shuyu. Work matters have been taken care of. Don't worry. Fu Hanqing stood up and closed the balcony window. I'll go deal with this first. The smell of smoke isn't good for you or the baby. Su Luoluo nodded with satisfaction. Fu Hanqing entered the bathroom and returned a call to his subordinate. Go and raid the hideout of those loan sharks. Leave no one behind. Cut off all their fingers and feed them to the dogs. Su Luoluo became the new mistress of the estate. True to his promise, Fu Hanqing had a piano custom made for her again. For a time, she felt she was the happiest woman in the world. Meanwhile, Fu Hanqing took over all the affairs left behind by Shuyu. The scent of blood and aura of killing intent around him grew ever stronger. Every time I came home and saw Su Luoluo's pure, innocent face again, I felt utterly drained. In the end, she wasn't like Shuyu. She couldn't help her deal with this dirty business. He still had to pretend to be one of those sanctimonious inspectors in front of her that day. After dealing with the traitor within the organization, just as I was about to pick up a little cake for Su Luoluo, as was our custom, my attention was suddenly caught by a medical debate playing on the shop screen. On the screen was a familiar face, confident, spirited, and brimming with vitality. It was like a red rose blooming in the spring. The colors are so vibrant and dazzling, they outshine even the purest white snow. Fu Hanqing stood in the shop for a long time. Even after Shuyu's speech ended, his heart was still pounding wildly. Fu Hanqing spent a long time in Shuyu's piano room, a place he hadn't visited in ages. A layer of dust had settled on the piano that hadn't been played in so long, yet all the memories between him and Shuyu seemed to have the dust brushed away, growing clearer by the moment. At their first meeting, she was holding an umbrella and dressed in a white dress, descending into his world like an angel. That year, Shuyu had just graduated from university. He held on to Shuyu, keeping her in his world at all costs. Shuyu was the only outlet for his repressed, blood-soaked life. She was different from the others. Only by Shuyu's side could he find that sliver of peace. He had once sworn to protect him for a lifetime, to love him forever. When did it all begin to change? It was Shuyu who gradually grew into the role, taking on the responsibilities he handed over. It was Shuyu who shielded him from half the darkness in the world. The scalpel was raised no longer to save lives. She was becoming more and more like him. Long forgotten, suppressed emotions surged forth once more. At this moment, Fu Hanqing had only one thought: he wanted her back, by his side, by any means necessary. He was, by nature, a man who was true to his desires. After a moment of silence, Fu Hanqing took out his phone and called his subordinate. "Find out where my wife is. Turn the world upside down if you have to. I want her found. Even if she's dead, she'll die in my arms." The subordinate hesitated on the other end. "Mr. Fu, the mistress has been missing for so long. I'm afraid her trail has gone cold." Fu Hanqing's brow furrowed slightly. "If you can't find her mother. Someone that's seriously ill must be in a sanatorium, especially a private, high-end one abroad. She wouldn't neglect her own mother." The call ended. Su Luoluo stood at the entrance to the music room. "Hansen, who are you looking for?" Fu Hansen snapped back to reality, offering no explanation. "It's work-related, you don't need to worry about it." A flicker of discomfort crossed Su Luoluo's expression, but she managed a smile, taking a seat at the piano bench. "It's been a long time since I last played. What would you like to hear?" Fu Hanqing felt a momentary daze, as if the familiar strains of music were once again sounding in his ears. "I'd like to hear Mozart's Requiem." Su Luoluo was taken aback for a moment. It was a very obscure piece of music. "All right, I'll play it for you." For several days in a row, there was not a single piece of news. Even Shuyu's mother had been hidden away very well. "Useless, all of you are useless. Can't you even find one living person that big?" He swept everything off the desk in one furious motion. "What are you still standing around for? Get out there and find her." He had never felt such agitation before. With each day he couldn't see Shuyu, a deeper emptiness grew within him. He was dead drunk in the wine cellar. Su Luoluo carefully pushed the door open. Fu Hanqing was in a bad state. At first, he could still fool himself into thinking it was just work-related stress. But that day, he overheard Fu Hanqing's conversation in the music room. "Is his wife really dead?" Su Luoluo's hand instinctively moved to her noticeably rounded belly. After a moment's hesitation, she crouched down, intending to help Fu Hanqing up. "Hanqing, let's go back to the room. I've made some sobering soup for you." Fu Hanqing remained silent, his gaze hazy and fixed on her face for a long moment. He gently cradled it and placed a kiss full of tender longing. Su Luoluo's face flushed, the smile at the corner of her mouth yet to fully bloom. Then she heard Fu Hanqing say, "I miss you so much, Shuyu." Her blood ran cold in that instant. The next day, when Fu Hanqing came downstairs, he saw Su Luoluo sitting in the living room waiting for him. The wedding invitations were laid out on the coffee table. Before Fu Hanqing could speak, Su Luoluo ventured to ask, "Hanqing, I've spoken to the doctor. The baby's condition is stable now, so we can go ahead with the wedding." In the past, he would have been overjoyed to hear that Su Luoluo was willing to marry him, but now, an inexplicable sense of agitation had welled up inside him. He sat down and pulled Su Luoluo into his embrace. "There have been so many cases lately, and I'm not in a good state. Has it been affecting you?" Su Luoluo forced a strained smile. "I'm asking you, when are we having the wedding and making it public? I don't want people to misunderstand anymore. If you don't love me, just tell me. I'll leave quietly." Fu Hanqing's expression froze for a moment before he soothed her, saying, "How about next week? We'll hold the ceremony next week and announce it publicly. Don't overthink things, just focus on resting for the baby." "All right." Su Luoluo lowered her gaze to hide the desolation in her eyes and gave a soft, quiet After Fu Hanqing left, she didn't stay at home. Instead, she went to the Fu Corporation, the company whose logo was on the documents in Fu Hanqing's study. Without an appointment, she couldn't get past the main entrance, so she waited outside, hoping to intercept someone. She had just one question. "Do you know Shuyu?" The moment someone heard Shuyu's name, they stared at her with suspicion. Soon after, Su Luoluo's mind grew hazy. She couldn't even remember how she got home. The basement door was open. The sounds of screams and pleas for mercy kept drifting out from within. Fu Hanqing had the man chained like a dog and forced down onto broken glass. Utterly brutal. "Fu Hanqing, I already handed over the land in the West District to you. What the hell else do you want? A piece of land? What is that compared to my wife? You should have known what was coming to you the moment you laid a hand on her." His face covered in blood, as if knowing he wouldn't survive, he sneered with a bitter laugh, determined to make Fu Hanqing suffer. "I saw you, when she had the accident. You were with your little mistress. What's with the act of devotion now? Makes me sick." Fu Hanqing cut out his tongue. Fu Hanqing's knuckles cracked, his eyes simmering with a quiet madness. This was his true face, not the prosecutor who had mourned his late wife for 5 years, but the mafia crown prince with blood on his hands. Su Luoluo fled the basement in a panic. She rushed upstairs and frantically stuffed her clothes into a suitcase. She had to go. She had to get out of here. Fu Hanqing caught up and saw Su Luoluo's eyes were red and swollen. Immediately realizing she had just witnessed it, Luo, that was just a means to an end, he hurt me, but he got what he deserved, tears welling in her eyes. Su Luo stopped what she was doing. You saved me. When those people tried to hurt me, she was the one who shielded me with her own body. She's such a good person, I can't do her wrong. A flicker of panic flashed in Fu Hanqing's eyes. Su Luo knew everything. He quickly stepped forward and grabbed Su Luo's hand, explaining, I didn't mean to deceive you by hiding my identity. I just have many difficulties. You have to understand me. You should understand me. Doesn't God forgive everything? Su Luo pushed his hand away, tears streaming down her face. God will not forgive me, nor will he forgive you. We are all sinners, guilty. Do you know why she came to the church that day? Why? Fu Hanqing's heart sank. She was there to hold a mass for his deceased child. She truly loved you and her child. Fu Hanqing's hand, which had reached out to stop her, fell limply to his side. A long moment later, a heart-wrenching roar suddenly tore through the silence. What on earth had he done? I spent nearly 3 months in a New York hospital, undergoing 7 surgeries on my 10 fingers. Every time the pain woke me in the dead of night, I would go up to the hospital rooftop and sit there, numb and empty. That was when I met Jiang Yunan. He broke his leg in a street race after making a bet, and snuck out against his doctor's orders just to come up here and drink a beer. I asked him if he'd won the bet. His smile was wild and bright. Of course I won, by 0.01 seconds. I never lose, sis. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, he stopped me, his face flushed, and handed me a love letter. In that moment, my heart, which I thought had died, seemed to beat once more. I only found out later that he was the youngest son of a local crime family. He grew up under the protection of his older siblings. When he spoke of the family business, his eyes lit up with unmistakable ambition. He was like a young leopard, newly come into its strength. I couldn't help but be drawn to him, but, having learned from past mistakes, our relationship remained stuck in the more than friends, less than lovers stage. I picked up my old dream again. I applied to volunteer at the local Red Cross. Jiang Yinian would come pick me up from work whenever he had the time. That day, I waited outside the hospital for nearly 10 minutes, and there was still no sign of him. Just as I was on the phone telling him I'd head home first, a black van screeched to a halt right in front of me, its door sliding open. Before I could even let out a cry for help, a hand clamped over my mouth and I was dragged inside. After a long, bumpy ride, the blindfold was ripped from my eyes once more. It was Fu Hanqing's face I saw. Long time no see. My hand shot up and I slapped him. What do you think you're doing? This isn't China. He ran his tongue over the cheek I had slapped red, showing not a hint of anger. Then he offered the other side of his face. Darling, I want this side too. I instinctively took a step back, completely baffled by what he was trying to do. Fu Hanqing, you can't possibly be unaware that I've already divorced you. I stepped aside and didn't stand in your way. What more do you want from me? A flicker of desolation passed through his eyes. I've been looking for you for so long. I've missed you. Miss me? He's still wearing the wedding ring from our marriage. What on earth is he trying to do? Has Shiyu already registered their marriage with him? Let's go home. In your dreams, Fu Hanqing, I hate you. And that will never change. His eyes suddenly welled up with tears. I know everything now. I know about our child. Let's start over. This time, I swear I'll protect you. I won't let anyone hurt you ever again. I was utterly speechless. I simply turned my face away, refusing to look at him. The smartwatch on my wrist was continuously transmitting a distress signal. Jiang Yinian gave it to me. It's set to send automatically if I move outside a certain range. Fu Hanqing tied me up and is rushing to the private airfield. Jiang Yinian sent over a video. In the footage, Su Luolua's hands are bound to a long rope, the other end of which is tied to the helicopter's rotor blade. Jiang Yinian's taunting voice came through the video. Let her go, or I'll have your wife strung up like a kite in front of your child. The scene cut briefly to a child, barely a year old. My heart skipped a beat. So he never actually broke up with Su Luoluo, and now their child is all grown up. When the video ended, she simply turned off her phone as if nothing had happened. Let me go, or he really will do something. Fu Hanqing remained unmoved and replied coolly, she's not as important as you, Shuyu. For you, I'd give up anything. I was stunned by the obsession in his eyes. He's truly lost his mind. The vehicle kept moving forward. Suddenly, a motorcycle shot out from the intersection, and a bullet shattered the car window. Instantly, gunfire erupted from all directions. Both Fu Hanqing and Jiang Yunian were in a murderous frenzy, dead set on killing each other. But after all, this was Jiang Yunian's turf. Fu Hanqing had no choice but to pull back with me for now. We turned left and right, ducking into a narrow alley. He'd been hit in the abdomen by a stray bullet, yet he still tried to comfort me. Don't be afraid, I will get you home. I watched in silence as a flood of memories played out before my eyes. I let out a sigh. Fu Hanqing, I told you we can't go back. The moment you fell for Sulualuo, this was the only ending fate had in store for us. I crouched beside him and said with eerie calm, a long time ago, I had a dream. In it, I couldn't accept that we were divorced. I was filled with nothing but resentment and bitterness. So, at your wedding, I slapped Sulualuo, then you ran over and killed my mother, and with your own hands, you took our child from me. I've never been able to forget that dream, Fu Hanqing. If that day, when I saw you two going to get your marriage license, if I had rushed out to confront you, do you think that dream would have come true? He was speechless. We both knew these were things he was fully capable of doing. When he loves someone, he would move heaven and earth for them, but when he doesn't, he wouldn't bat an eye even if they died right in front of him. It was just a dream, Ayu. I would never hurt you. Everything will be alright once we get home, I promise. Okay. I shook my head and gently slipped free of the frayed ropes. I drew the gun I'd picked up in the chaos without hesitation. I aimed at his thigh and pulled the trigger. A single gunshot rang out. He didn't even glance at the leg I had injured, not a single whimper escaping him. The rain began to fall again. Jiang Yunyan caught up from a distance and held an umbrella over me. It was as if everything had returned to how it was 10 years ago. Don't go. Shuyu, please don't go. Don't leave me here alone. Shuyu, don't. Watching my receding figure, Fu Hanqing was suddenly seized with panic. He roared and struggled, crawling desperately toward me, but this time, I didn't look back. I didn't pause for a single step. 3 years later, I had just finished my medical volunteer work in country. As I was leaving the airport, I saw Sulualuo. She waved at me, holding her child. I was told she is now a music teacher. We exchanged a smile. I've let go of the past. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget